Kyle, and welcome to episode 3 of COVID Comfort. Today we're going to be talking about the Funhouse.
What?
Something is alive in the Funhouse.
Please don't hurt me.
Something that feeds on the flesh of young innocents.
I'm scared.
I don't know what that thing is. I just want to get the hell out of here.
Something that tonight will turn the Funhouse into a carnival of terror. The Funhouse from Universal Pictures, rated R.
The Funhouse is a 1981 horror film directed by Tobe Hooper and written by Larry Block. It's kind of inspired by Tobe Hooper's love for Nightmare Alley, a film noir, not really in the horror genre, although it does have a very horrific end for its protagonist, and it's a great film in its own right that I definitely recommend. It's being remade actually by Guillermo del Toro, so I'm interested to see how that comes out. I kind of think the original is a masterpiece in and of itself, so we'll see. Anyways, so the Funhouse is kind of unlike the slashers of the period. It relies much more on atmosphere and aesthetic than blood and gore. I think it definitely is a film that probably disappointed on initial release because it's nowhere near as brutal or gritty or as intense as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I can parentheses and fill that in with everything I said in the previous video about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 and the effect of the first film on Hooper's subsequent films and the way they were received. But yeah, it's not particularly bloody or brutal or, I don't know, just as cynical as a lot of the other slasher films that came in the wake of Halloween. So it doesn't quite give you the punch you're expecting, and that definitely left me with not a great first impression. I think it just kind of, I saw it and I didn't think that much of it, and for whatever reason I decided to revisit it a couple times, and I found upon rewatching it, the cinematography and the world of the carnival and the lighting and the atmosphere and some of the background actors and the character actors and the smaller parts and the little pieces are just full of moments that stuck with me that I actually really like. And I don't think I noticed them the first time through because you're kind of trying to get to the plot, figure out what's going on, and you're missing all the pieces that are really the best part. It's kind of a lot like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think I can draw that comparison just a little bit in terms of that pace. You're waiting for the plot to kick in, but really you kind of should just be soaking up the flavor. That's what it's really about. There's several moments in particular that like stick with me where there's a homeless character who doesn't even have any lines, but he just walks through one shot, but it's kind of so authentic and bewildered looking and out of place that I expected him to come back or have lines or something. There's a warning of doom from this one other old lady in the bathroom who's a really interesting character actor. There's a homeless guy behind the striptease tent who also is just he just seems so authentic, really interesting. There's a lot of really great jokes in there that, a lot of the stuff with the teenagers is actually surprisingly well written and funny and memorable. And they're jokes that, I don't know, I've watched it several times now that just keep landing with me the more I've seen it. It starts off with an interesting parody POV, killer POV scene that is, the first time I saw it, I didn't know it was a parody, so I thought it was just like a blatant ripoff of Halloween. And this is only, 2 or 3 years later. But then thankfully it's revealed to be a parody, and it's the main girl's younger brother who's obsessed with horror films pranking her. Thankfully, because it just felt so blatant. I was like, oh my God, but it plays out to be something more. But that also hints to some of what I was saying about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 and Hooper's sense of humor that he doesn't really get credit for. especially in, you know, it's a false start to the whole movie. That's saying this is a slasher film. You know, here's exactly what a slasher film is, and I can recreate it so you think that I'm like going down well-trodden territory, and then I pull the rug out from under you, and then we get to the real story. There's also featured in there, since this is a Universal film, prominent featuring of Frankenstein and the Wolfman posters, which is interesting, because later you have the creature in this film who's a mutant bastard child of a carnival barker who wears a Frankenstein mask over his own hideous face. I remember being kind of disappointed by the final reveal of the creature, because I expected the makeup to be a little bit more realistic, I guess, because it does look like a mask coming off of a mask, and I was expecting there to be like a further reveal, and there's not. But over time, I've actually come to really like the creature and the makeup. So the creature is also very reminiscent of something like Leatherface, because you have another kind of dysfunctional, crazy family unit, this time just with the creature who works at the carnival and his father, who's kind of the head carnival barker, played by Kevin Conway, who's great in this, who plays all the carnival barkers in different makeup. So they're ostensibly like 4 different characters, but all played by him, which is fantastic. And then he's the main carnival barker, who's the father of this creature, and who obviously is abusive, but also cleans up his messes. This is another mentally challenged man-child creature thing who ends up killing people, and they have to cover this up frequently, apparently, as the carnival travels from town to town. It's hinted to in the opening when this girl's parents don't want her to go to the carnival because of what happened in Fairfield County. And then we see likely these were the culprits after the creature gets a hand job from Xena the Fortune Teller, played by Sylvia Miles, who also is she's a great character actor, but she's some great scenes in this stuff where she has a accent that she puts on and then drops when everyone's being an asshole and mocking her trade, which really reminds me of the fortune teller scene in Mallrats, actually, ironically enough. And I know Kevin Smith is a huge fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I don't know how he feels about the Funhouse, but very similar characters. Anyways, so these teenagers decide they're going to stay at the Funhouse for thrills, basically. And they end up witnessing this murder. And one of them also ends up stealing the take for the night of the carnival, which is really more of the problem than the witnessing of the murder they really kind of could have got away with. But when the carnival barker sees that all the money's gone, then he's not going to let them get away. But this doesn't happen till way deep in the movie. I mean, I think they witness the murder probably halfway through, and it doesn't really get to the cat and mouse till almost 50 minutes in. So it really just underlines how much it's really kind of about the atmosphere and the aesthetic of the carnival, which is kind of the main course of this thing. Hooper actually got Andrew Laszlo to do the cinematography, who had just done The Warriors, which is an amazing rain slick neon dream. I love that movie, and I love the aesthetic of it. So he brought a lot of that to this carnival, which just sells it, I think, and makes every frame just eye candy. This is also the first time Hooper's using anamorphic, so you just have these great, huge frames full of colorful neon compositions set against the night, which just look fucking beautiful and just create this world that you kind of want to soak in. There's also a really interesting opening sequence with a series of like motorized toys, wind-up toys, that we see later actually in the Funhouse, which I guess apparently Hooper ended up buying which is interesting. And more interesting is there's one featured prominently in the background of a couple scenes that's this white clown head that you may recognize from Rob Zombie's 31 on top of the van that the main characters drive. I'm not sure if it's the same exact one, but I know obviously Rob Zombie's a huge fan of Texas Chainsaw and Tobe Hooper, so I wouldn't be surprised. It would be kind of cool if it was the same one, or it's at least it's a replica for sure. There's a great score by John Beal. That's kind of a hypnotic, beautiful score that I really enjoy. I've actually listened to it just while I'm writing and stuff, just to get that kind of vibe. There's an awesome climax. So like I said, I mean, there's kind of not the gore that you would expect from Tobe Hooper, I guess. Just having come off, you know, really eaten alive, but Texas Chainsaw being the big one. But there's a great climax with the final girl and the creature that's just kind of jarring and brutal, that when you first think that he's dead and they fall into the trope of one last scare, you don't really see it coming because you're so invested and so thrown by kind of the brutality of it, and then it just it just tops itself with an even worse kill, and then you have a great moment of her totally traumatized, staggering across the grounds of the carnival and out with a great big crane shot. Really great ending. There's also a great other crane shot kind of halfway through when her little brother is looking for them in the carnival, and we pull up and back and all around, and you just see the enormity of the carnival grounds as everything shuts down and everyone leaves, and they're going to stay for the night in the Funhouse. So I have this Shout Factory version, which is great. There's a lot of special features on here. There's also a Arrow Video version, which I think now is out of print. But still, who knows? I may end up getting it just to satisfy my curiosity about what other special features there are. But I love this poster. This clown. I just always felt attracted to this poster and this clown. And I don't know why I didn't see the movie for the longest time, but it's just one of those covers you would see at the video store and be scared and excited to know what is that. So yeah, I love that poster. There's a bunch of really cool posters. There's a cool Spanish poster. There's a great Japanese poster. A lot of interesting artwork for the Funhouse. I mean, it's also interesting because like this clown is not in the movie at all. There is a similar clown that sits at the front of the Funhouse. That's kind of the mascot of the Funhouse, essentially, but which isn't really a character or anything. It's just there. And that art kind of plays off of it, kind of. But there's no clowns popping out of Jack-in-the-Boxes like you might expect based on that. But yeah. So that's the Funhouse. Definitely a comfort watch. I enjoy it. I think it's just a good one to put on in the background and pick up the little moments that you like. But it's really just creates an interesting world that you want to jump into. And to me, it's just another childhood warm summer night carnival neon drenched world that I kind of want to put on and maybe let my mind wander and write or something like that, or brainstorm or daydream a little bit. So yeah, I guess that's what COVID Comfort kind of is all about right there. So that is the Funhouse. We're definitely going to be coming back to Tobe Hooper, but I don't think we will just yet. We'll save some of the rest. So next time, we're going to be jumping into another favorite, Wes Craven's The People Under the Stairs. And then we can open the whole box of Craven, who is also one of my huge heroes. So now's the time for you to like, subscribe, comment, follow, tweet. Hit us up with your BlackBerry, TikTok, Snapchat, FaceTime, iMessage. Send me an email. Drop me a line. Unsubscribe, dislike. Send us some hate mail. Let's just get some interaction going on here. Really anything. I'll take your insults. All right. That's COVID Comfort. This is Kyle signing off. Take care. Bloodhound Pix podcast is produced by Josh Lee, Craig Draheim, and Kyle Hintz. Music by Raymond Seed. Audio editing by Kyle Hintz.